Hello and welcome to this video. In this video I am going to be finishing off the light conversions in my East Coast Mark IIIs that you can see along here. These two already have been finished. This one is yet to be finished, as you can see by me doing this. I've also included the door lock lights, which can be turned on by function 1. So there you go. I can turn the lights on in 4 different sets: function 5, 6, 7 and 8. The light decoders have been programmed to act like fluorescent lights. By pushing 4 I can turn all of them on at the same time, and as I said, 1 is an auxiliary function on the decoder which I've wired up to be the door lock indicator lights. I have done this for my entire train, and I'll be showing you how I do it on my final coach. The interiors have also been done, so we've got people and one of the Model Scenics litter pack, which gives me newspapers, magazines, bags and crisp packets and all that sort of stuff. So I've already done some prep work on this carriage. I've pre-drilled the holes for the wheel pickups to go in, pre-drilled some of the holes for the side lights, and I've already painted the interior because it used to be this blue. Still got to paint the sides, but yeah, as you can see, I've added plenty of people as well as some magazines and stuff. There we go, got my camera to focus. So yeah, so we're not going to need this piece, so I'll just put that side out of the way. Already done some of the drilling work for the pickup cables, but we'll finish that off in a bit. Which leaves us with the carriage. Now for this conversion, we're going to need the light bar. This is from DCCconcepts. This is there we go. The item code is DR80010, and it's basically a multi-function light bar. As you can see, here's the decoder. We've got the 4 negative pads and the 1 common positive pad. This does have the stay alive functionality on it as well, as they supply it with a 100 UF capacitor, which I will be upgrading the size of. So now that we've got the light bar, we're also going to need 2 colours of cable, the new capacitor, which is a 1000 UF capacitor, Electrolytic. It's 16 volts, and it does a far better job than the one that they supply. I've also got 5k resistors and orange lights for the door indicators. Gonna need some all-purpose glue, DCCconcepts track pickups, wiper blade style ones, quite easy to install. We're just going to be using some black tack and some copper tape to join some wires together in the roof. I've also 3D printed some light covers that will go over the door indicator LEDs to stop light bleed into the carriage. If you don't have this ability, then just wrap them in some insulation tape. We will do the same task pretty much. So yeah, that's all the components I will be needing for this conversion. And of course, you're going to need a soldering iron. But that pretty much goes without saying. I shall also be using the Pico service cradle, mainly to stop the carriage from rolling whilst I'm working on it. So let's get the light decoder out. Gonna put the rest to the side because I won't need that stuff. I have tested this light bar already, so I'm well aware of it works. But yeah. Light bar quite happily goes between the full length of the carriage. You can shorten it, but you need to read the instructions before doing that. For the other lights, we're going to be using the second pad down from the top, so easier to judge that way. First, alright, I've already pre-cut 4 sections of the copper tape, and we're going to go and stick that to the roof now. When I can peel it off its backing. Now, as the light bulb is going to be running down the central part of the carriage, you stick these to the sides. So I've got to mirror that on both sides. Okay, now that those pads are all in, now I've got to add solder to these, so that I can solder onto the next bit. Okay. Time to finish off the last of these holes. As you can see, I've not drilled all of them out just yet, so I'm gonna okay, last hole made. Just got to make sure there's nothing left on the inside of these holes. Okay, so those holes are all ready for the lights to go on. But before the lights go in, we've got a wire between them. Okay, now that wire's all prepped. Okay, so that's our red wire going for the door lights. I'm going to have to connect a second wire onto this pad to go part way along to meet this. So other way around, go from the other end. Yeah. Now I've got to do the same with the black wire. Okay, there we go. Two main wires for the positive and negative of the door lights are now in. So next, I believe it should be time for the door lights to be set up. So we'll need a resistor, and one light. As well as some red cable for the positive. That should be enough. I'm going to strip and tin one end of the cable. Okay, with the LED, got to make sure I know which side has the longer leg, because the long leg is the positive neg. Right. But the LEDs, these are 2mm tower LEDs, therefore perfect size for the hole that we just drilled. I'm sorry if this keeps going out of focus. And all we're going to do is fold that round, and I'm going to grab my pliers. I've got it, so just after these little lumps here, grab and then fold flat. Now, in habit, I'm going to do the negative leg first, which is the shorter one. So I'm going to cut the negative leg off. I'm going to get my 5k resistor. I'm going to turn that off. Then I'm going to trim that leg down. Tin both ends of the, or both bits I want to join. So the negative leg of the LED and the short leg that I've most made on the resistor. There we go. Not a clean join, but still a join. That'll stay nice and strong. Now we need to trim the positive leg of the LED to about the same. Then we tin the leg with some solder. And there we go. Nice clean join on that too. Now all we do is test it to make sure the LED is working before proceeding too much further. So I expose the other end of the cable. And I'll bring in this 9-volt battery. And that's a good light. So now the battery is no longer needed. So that's one light. I've also pre-prepped the other 3 lights, all identical, all set up the same way, just different lengths of cable because I was doing a rough cut. So the next step is we bring our carriage back. We can ditch the cradle for a little bit. So we're going to need the all-purpose glue and our lights that we've set up. Now the cables are going to be really trimmed to join on with these already in the bottom. Pick one to start with. For these steps you're also going to need some insulation tape, more to protect it. So for this one we're going to just bend this cable and wire from the resistor around, more to go with the roof of the carriage. Then you put the light into the hole drilled out for it. Sometimes trickier. There we go. So the light's poking through. Doesn't go all the way in, otherwise if you pushed it all the way through it'll be protruding on the other side. So I just like to go till it's flat with the outside. Now we start working on our cable positions. So the red one needs to come under the resistor leg. In order to get to that point there, and I'll send the resistor that way. So now the red cable can meet up with the reds, and the resistor will meet straight onto the negative. Now whilst holding it down I can trim the cables. Then we pull the light out again. And now I know where to cut the cable off. Then all you've got to do is strip the end of the cable off and tin both of these bits. Okay, now those are prepped. We now put the LED back in. Now we just have to line up the things. This is why I like using the copper tape, because it makes doing this stage easy. That light's now connected. Not glued in yet, but that'll be a stage once I've got all of them in. But yeah, that is the first one placed in. Three more to go. Okay, negatives connected. Now this time we do it differently, because now we have to we cover those over with insulation tape. Then we can bring the cable down. And that light's now connected. And now that last one is also connected, we cover that side with insulation. And to make sure the light board is protected, we shall cover over that last bit of that negative cable. And there, that side's now done. Now we have to repeat the process for this end. Okay, all the lights are now installed. You wouldn't have seen those last two being put in because I stopped the recording. But yeah, these two are now gluing in place. Now it's just these two that need to be glued in place. So what I tend to do is, because they're all fitted in and held in by the wires, I use a screwdriver, just poke them back out. Poke out the other side. Now we use the all-purpose. Just need to put a little bit onto the shaft of the LED, basically the bit that's going to go into the hole. Downside to all purposes, it can get messy, but you do not want to use super glue because it will fog up the windows. Okay, so see, bit of glue. Then all you do is push them back into the holes. Just till you feel them come out the other side. Oh, that one's in place. Then you get the other one, do the exact same thing. This is the point where you got to keep an eye on it and make sure they stay in place as they dry. Otherwise they can slide further out. So now that those are in and sorted. We're going to put this to the side and we're going to work on the chassis. So I need solder for a bit of this. Right, so as you can see here, I've already started doing the hole. To do the hole, I've been chain drilling basically several little holes like these two. Then I come along and snip it out with the cutters. Pop the axles off the bottom. Then I get my Stanley and just smooth out the edge. Make sure there's no rough edges for the cables to catch. That's pretty good there. Right, so now that hole's made, we're done with this part of the chassis. We're not doing anything with the opposite end, but if you're doing it yourself, you can put pickups on either end. I'm just going all on one side, just like I've done with my other two coaches are up there, and the other two that are on my layout. Right, so on this wheel has double isolation, so you've got an isolator there and an isolator there, so you can't feed off the axle, which is quite often the better way because it reduces drag on the coaches. And then the other side is the same, you've got double isolator, if you can see that. So because it's double isolator, that's why I'm using the wiper pickups. So we want two of these, and then we want some fastening screws that they supply as well. So two screws. Now these are quite good pickups because they've already got solder pads on them ready to go, and they're quite springy, which in some ways is good, otherwise makes it difficult to place them, because the more they push against the wheels, the more braking force they're adding against the wheels, which is bad, especially if you have a whole rake of these. So to get them in, you got to push the blades in, and then they'll slip against the wheels. Just got to line it up with the hole. Okay, so now that we've got a good screwdriver, we can put a screw on the end and then quite simply screw it in. Now they do poke through the other side because of their size, but they do not impact the carriage at all. Now I've done that out, but not tightly, so there's still wiggle room on the pickup, which can help it stay with the wheel. Move just a bit tighter. enough to still move, but enough to fix it. So again, slightly bend these back in, but make sure that they are still hard against the wheels. Now, I'm not doing these all the way up so that they can move with the wheels, which also helps them stay in contact because they can slightly turn. Yeah, there we go. Okay, this side's still very tough to turn, so small little pry on these wiper blades, and that's better. And then I'll turn on the screw. There we go. Now that they're on, we just have to wire them up. So let's get some black and red cable. Okay, that's the red. This is also the cable that's going to be going into the carriage and connecting to the light bar. Okay, so now we've got our red and black cable. As usual, we want to strip and tin the end of both cables, or one end of them. And also add a bit of solder to the pads, which they do already have solder on them, but I find it's better just to add a small tab more. Okay, so let's do the red cable first. Now I'm going to measure the red cable again because I want to cut it in line with the rear pads. Like that. Now I'm going to strip the end of this cable off. This is going to bridge both sides together from one wiper from one side to the other, connecting both of these wheels together. So we just add solder to that one. Again, what we do is we grab the cable, bridge it over both pads and connect it. That's one side bridged over. We'll take the other cable off from this back one through the hole at the front there, and then now go through the hole in the chassis and straight to the roof of the carriage. On this train I'm also running the Hunt magnetic couplings too. I've had no issues with these. You got to be careful with these though, sometimes they can add too much force and uncouple the trains, so you end up spending a lot of time tweaking and adjusting it whilst maintaining the light. So small adjustment there as well. Now we'll get the black cable. We'll do exactly the same as the first step with the red. And there we go. The other side is now connected. So we now need to prep these other two cables. Now this one, you got to feed the cable through after a quick reference to make sure they're going through the right way. And then we'll just tack that onto the same join there. Which now connects those to the inner carriage. Just got to do the same for the red. Layer the tip up of the iron with some more solder. And there, soldered together. So now that means wheel is still free to turn. And the cables just come through there. Now that passenger tray that was before not required now makes its reappearance. And because in these compartments you've got the little holes through there, they make perfect places to run the cables up. So we just feed them in. Now at the passenger compartment I have trimmed the top center parts of these bits away. You've got to trim some more of this wall out for the door lights, but we'll cover that bit in a second. Just clip that one over top and then see if the wheels still turn, which they do freely, because there's nothing restricting those cables, which will be shortened. So now that the base is no longer needed, that can go up top. Okay, now we bring this bit back, which has had enough time for the lights to dry, so we can now see the lights in the carriage. So they should light up pretty well. Now we need to bring over the light bar. As well as lifting up some of this tape that I put down. Just enough to uncover the solder pads. So yeah, you just have to figure out which way round these pads are, which I've already done on one of these sheets. So we've got the long line, the long pad, which is the common positive. Then we've got this pad, top pad, and bottom pad, one on F0, which is directional lighting. Then we've got second from the top, which is F1's minus, second from the bottom, which is F2's minus. On this carriage we're just going to be using F1 and the main pad. I've got that sheet ready for reference, so if we slide the carriage up and come and look at the bar itself. So we need F1, which is second from the top. As well as a place to join on to the negative. So now that those have been soldered, we have picked which ones we need. As you can see. We also have other bits to do on the light bar, as we have to add the stay alive capacitor, as well as solder our track pickups. So now that we've got solder on there, we'll be able to hook our track wires to that. Next, we need to use our electrolytic capacitor, because it's got a minus on one side as well as the short leg. We have to look for the positive and put the long leg through the positive. And to make sure it sits over the back, we're going to bend those back slightly, like that. So there we go. Capacitor is now soldered on. I could have got that in a bit more straight, but it'll do. So now we just need to cut the legs. So that it can sit up against the roof of our carriage. There we go. Our stay alive is fitted. That's an upgrade from 100 UF to 1000 UF in capacity. So we'll put that at the back and go back to this carriage. We need our black and reds back. and then we connect them to the solder pads in here, because these are the cables that will go to the decoder ports. So yeah, they make it a good midway down the carriage, which is more than enough to be able to connect to our pads on here. Right, so next step, we need to put that to the side to keep it safe. We're not going to need solder for a little bit. We need the black tack, which is great sticky stuff. And really good for DCC installs. So we just need to get a good lump of that off, probably a little bit more. That'll do for the central spot. So you just put a lump of that in the middle, spread it out slightly. Then you need 2 more lumps. This is to hold the light bar. Now, this end, you don't want to put it on the tape, so we put it right there in between it. Try to make sure it still has a little bit of height over the tape itself. Then 1 more lump. And stick it to the other end. We'll go before the tape this time. Okay, there we go. So there we have it. Black tack's in. The decoder will follow straight down the light bulb, straight down the center. We want to bring our carriage in. Now we're going to want to measure our cable. I prefer to have it so you can sit the roof next to it in length. So that'll do. Put those 2 bits to the side. Now we can again strip and tin, which I've done an awful lot in this video. These 2 cables in the coach, or top half, you put on once the bar's in and situated, but because of where the track pickups on this are located, it's best to get those out the way of at this stage and hook them up. We've still got to cut the space for the door lights, as well as, which means we can now move on to attach them to the light bar. Now, as this is a DCC light bar and DCC runs on alternating current, there is no positive and negative to how you connect this to track. You've got 1 track set of pickups at one end, but I quite often go for this end, same end as you put the capacitor on. So got to be careful with how you put this as well, because it is quite top heavy with the capacitor on it. So let's put the black wire underneath. And okay, black wire's on. We're going to spin it around the other way. And then we can get the red wire in easier. Okay, so now that's on, it's safe to say that we can now do a power test on the light bar. So if I move some of the carriages out of the way and pop that on the test track, just turn my light off. Okay, so no shorting out, which is good. F4. Ooh. Helps if I'm on one that's coded up to channel 3, so F4. We've got all lights on. Pretty good track power contact, he says, and he does that. Right, now I'll run you through the function groups as you can see the lights at the moment. Okay, so this is currently F4, so that's all lights on. So we turn that off. If we go F5, we've got 3 lights in each group. So if we turn that one off, leave it on, then we push F6, we get the next group. We can turn 5 off, then we've got 7, which is the next group along. We can turn 6 off, and then 8, which is the last group. So you can pretty much go turning each group on, or just have it as 2 groups, so you can have less lighting on. That's just group 5 and 7. Then we can do 6 and 8, or you can just have them all on. Now they're different to my other ones because my other ones are set up to be fluorescents, but that's a brand new light bar, so it's acting like they're bulbs, and whilst it's doing the bulb, they will slowly come on and slowly go off. Well, I say slowly, they'll just go on and off like that. But fluorescent ones, they tend to flicker, which I think looks better. And because of all these different groups of lights, they'll flicker differently to each of their own groups. So they have one flickering longer than others. Occasionally when running along, one set will just flicker. That's what I like about these light bars. They are smart light bars. But enough of the testing them. That proves that they're working. The next task is we need to set the heights of these, which, okay, that should have been an earlier step, but we'll make do. Okay, now one thing I normally do is, because all the wires in this end, I will grab some insulation tape, because these lights can actually light up this end, but because they have the larger capacitor this end, it tends to take up the whole gangway, so you don't tend to see it lit up, and what light you do get in that area does tend to light up the capacitor. So I just say get a bit of tape, black tape, and cover over the end windows on the doors. Just obscures them. And because it's black, you don't really notice it because it just looks like it's dark in that section. As in, no lights turned on. And then a second piece just to cover over the other window. I've done this for my whole train. Before you smooth it out, you can get bubbles in there, so I just take a flat screwdriver and run it over the edge, squeeze all the air and smooth it out. I don't know if you can see that one, but you can see the bubbles there. So if I just smooth it, it takes away those little bubbles and leaves it just smooth and black. I mean, without lights on, you can't really tell that I've blanked that one out, except you can't see inside. Right, so next stage is we've got lay these cables flat. So I shall temporarily stick them to the central flat tack. Tricky to get my fingers in there. Okay, so those cables are now sitting low. We'll ditch that again. First time I'm going to marry these two shelves up, but it's not going to fit because of these lights. So we'll see how proud we're sitting. Yeah, there. That's where the walls have actually hit these lights because they're in line with the intervals. So small trim, as you can see, it's quite a bit up. So I'll just take, not got a ruler down here at the moment, so I'm just going to make it up as I go. In fact, I'm going to have a bit of this and a pin. Okay, now I've got that height mark, I'll compare it to the other side. Yep, same amount on that side too. Okay, so what I need to do is remove a good bit of this. On the fixed side, I'll just have to take it out of that wall, but on this one, I've got to take a bit out this way as well. So let's bring in our cutters. Okay, so that's that first piece trimmed off. Let's see if I've gone down far enough. Close. Let's just use a knife to trim away the last little bit. Check again. Always better to check more times than you attempt. I mean, I've still got to put the light covers on, which are slightly bigger than the lights, so I've had to do this on, this will be my 6th coach that I'm doing this to. So I've had a bit of practice doing this. Then because we have to take some out of the wall going along, we just do that. Then we get our Stanley. You can use a hobby knife for this as well. Of course, usually I'll have done this before I've fitted the light bar to the trap pickups, but I didn't do it in the right order this time. I will admit that, because if you did it before you put the light bar in, it would have been easier. You wouldn't have had the cables getting in the way, and you could have just put this straight into the body. Well, that's one side. We'll try that, see how that one side lines up. Okay, that side went all the way in. That's actually clipped in, whereas that side is not. So, just got to do that side. And there we go. Carriage has fit back together. Well, centre bit hasn't, but that's something I have to adjust when I've got it all together again. Might also help that there's actually a cable poking out this end. But yeah, now that that's set, I merely have to locate the light bar into the roof. But first, I will do these bits, which I'll probably just skip past for you. It's basically the same as wrapping tape around them, because if you turn them on now, the light will bleed into the carriage, which we can test. Yep, all 4 on. As you can see, orange light is flowing into the inside space, which is not good. The outside edge of them is looking good, plenty of light. These will be run off 12 volts instead of a 9-volt battery. So we put those cables back inside, and all we do is add a bit of glue inside, slip them over. These bits will just cover over the lights and cable, and as you can see, just covered that one, it's hidden. Just got 4 photos to do. Okay, covers are all glued on, so we won't have any more light bleed into the carriage itself. Now it's time to move on to the next and hopefully final stage. So using that black tack we put in there earlier, now got to locate the light bar in. You want to put the capacitor as close to the end as possible. Push that into the black tack. Push the midpoint into the mid black tack, keeping it central the whole way through the train carriage. And I want to get it as close to the roof as possible. So yeah, that's that in. So yeah, that's that. Now we just have this black and red cable, which, as I've already mentioned, needs to go to those solar pads. So let's get a closer look. And because I've located the board this particular way around, it means the black can go straight to the black pad and the red can go straight to the red pad. Use the screwdriver to make indents where I made the solder go. And 2 indents on that one. So now I grab the cable and cut it on the last indent. And then where that first indent was, I stripped the cable from. I'll work on one of them at a time. And that's ready to go down to the common positive on the circuit board. There we go, red is now connected. Quite a strong connection there. Now I need to set up the black cable, which I've already put marks on. And that's that. The door lights are now hooked up to the connections, which should now mean the decoder has full control over the train. Now I just have to make sure I've got my height done right on the walls of the carriage. So let's flip it over. Go for the law. Hopefully the last time I have to put this together. And there we have it. Coach is together. I've just got to cut a bit of the middle. I forgot about leaving wire clearance. And voila, carriage has just fit back together perfectly. He says it's close enough. I'll make tweaks later, and then we can put that on the test track once again. Minus a bit of coding. So we should have F1 for door lights, which are working. then F4 for internals. And now when you pair it with its other carriages, it now looks the part. It just needs programming to operate in the same manner. So if we turn off the main lights, we've got function 5, 6, 7 and 8. Then when we tell its friends to turn on F1 and then turn its ones on, it now blends in perfectly. So that was the video on how it went together. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll put a parts list or a components list into the description. Any questions, leave them in the comments.